Welcome to Bandit's Keep. I'm Daniel. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about rumors. This is a subject that comes up every once in a while, and I had mentioned on my Discord that I started recording a video about it almost 2 years ago, and I just never finished it. So this is that video. My thoughts, and I've looked back at my notes, my thoughts haven't changed much on it. And I think that it's one of those things that can be really interesting if you are running something more of an open world or a sandbox, right? Where you're going to want to feed information, if you will, to the players and player characters so that they can make decisions on what adventures and what tasks they want to do. If you are running something that's more linear, you can also do it so it adds a little flavor, because in that case, you'll have more specific rumors, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the idea of a rumor is just that your player characters come into town or they're in a place and they are looking for adventure. So how do they find it? That's what we're going to talk about here. Types of rumors. So first of all, I want to talk about breaking it down into a couple of different, three different types of rumors, or things that I would call rumors. The first is, I'll start with the most obvious, which is what we call tavern talk. Things that people will talk about in the tavern or possibly at the blacksmith or whatever, where it's like, oh, there's bandits in the woods, or this merchant didn't arrive, or there's been smoke on the horizon. This thing happened in town, that thing happened in town. This, royal person was assassinated. News, basically, things that people gossip about, if you will. That's kind of your first type of rumor. And I think the type of rumor that a lot of people think of when we say give rumors to the player characters. The second type is what I'll call legends. So legends are something that I think can be really powerful. And if we look at some of the older TSR modules, the rumors, some of them come out that way, right? It's like you've heard of a thing in the forest or whatever, or the ancient statue does this. So these can be legends, and these can be really interesting, and they can either just be known. You might start with knowing something like that. You might hear somebody talking about it again in the same other way, but more likely with legends, you're going to discover the legend, often through some effort. That is, you're going to put things out there that player characters find or are interested in, and they're going to come back and ask about them. And then that's when the legend will be told to them and they can choose to pursue it or not. And the final type is the superstition. So the superstition is something ongoing, but unknown. And generally this is the kind of thing like no one goes in the woods to the north because they will never return. Fairies dance there at night. There's a nymph with a pool full of treasure, but you never return. Superstitions, things like that. Don't travel down this road at this time of day. Nobody goes this place. Those are your superstitions. This graveyard does this. And it's basically those kind of rumors can often, in a D&D type setting, can lead to real things, of course. Maybe in the real world, a superstition like that is there's a ghost in the wood, but it's actually some kind of animal, or it's just dangerous in general. It's a marsh. But in D&D, it could actually be a ghost, right? And these are things that you might learn in a variety of different ways. Again, these are things people might talk about, especially if the player characters are venturing. And these are the things that they're going to be told only if they are interacting. So the tavern talk, you might be able to just go into a tavern and sit in the corner and listen. The legends, you might be able to somehow look them up if you're in a grand city with a library, or maybe there's even statues and you can read. But the superstition is something you're going to want to interact with people, because it's not something people are going to talk about a lot unless they're warning you. Introducing rumors. All right, so one thing I want to talk about here, because I think this is a big thing, is how do we get the rumors to the players? I'm going to talk about in play, and then we'll end with some starting stuff. But basically, what we want to do is teach our players, if you will, or let them know, however you want to say it, that rumors can be had. And we want to, this might even be an out-of-game conversation if they're new to this type of game. And we want to kind of let them know that there's areas where these things can be found. That is to say, if somebody says, I wonder if there's a way to deal with this certain gem, or we heard about this gem in this place, or whatever, who might know about this? Well, possibly the Thieves Guild might. And it's okay as a dungeon master or a referee to just say that out of character and say, well, your characters would know that a Thieves Guild might be, know about these kind of things, about that tower that's on the edge of town, that nobody can get into. Well, the Thieves Guild hasn't tried. Maybe they have some information there, right? So how the players interact with the Thieves Guild to get that information? The merchants or the dealers in arms and armor might know about other adventuring parties that are coming and going. That is, they might come back with lots of gold and buying more armor, but, having their stuff fixed and tell stories. So talking to those people might get you information like that. Who's been passing through? The stables or the blacksmith might know about caravans that are passing through. Think about who the rumor itself would interact with. If things are coming and going from this area, who's going to know that information? And make sure that's the thing. Don't have every rumor just be somebody talks to them in the tavern, which is still a good way to send rumors, but those rumors should be more like superstitions if they're talking to people and asking, or just general gossip about what's going on in the area. Sage advice. I'll add one final thing in a town or city that might seem obvious once I say it, and maybe not. Sages, right? Sages are how you get the information about legends. So you get the tip of the legend, you find something in a cave that looks ancient. And a sage is a super useful tool all the ways back to original Dungeons & Dragons. I think it's one of the supplements, not in the original books. There were sages, and basically you got to pay them. There's a chance they might know stuff, but you can obviously just create what you want in your world. But these are people who have knowledge that will give the knowledge or sell the knowledge to the player characters. So you entice them by having them find something cool like a weird helmet or a weapon or whatever. And when they go back to a place that might have a sage, or maybe they seek out a sage, that person will give them more information about the legend. The legend is effectively a rumor in that sense, because a rumor, for the context of this video, is just anything that the player characters can learn about, a bit about, that makes them need to or want to investigate it to hopefully gain treasure and whatnot. Stories on the road. So obviously that's all town stuff, and I think a lot of us think about rumors as something we gather during downtime or in town, but player characters and players should always be thinking about gathering information. So the farmer that lives out way away from town is going to know certain things. They might have a lot of information about, let's say, superstitions, and less so about the gossip and tavern talk. They might even know some legends depending on where they are. But I would again lean towards superstitions with them. They're going to paint everything with that brush, right? Oh, nobody goes that way. All the people go that way. We haven't seen anyone in a long time. Oh, you came from the West? I was told never go to the West because whatever. And these types of people are often trading in stories, right? If you are a remote farmer and people aren't coming and going a lot, a party coming in with stories to tell is fantastic. And these can be great scenes where the party shares some of their adventures, and through what they say to the farmer, in this case, I was going to call him a farmer, it could be any kind of thing, hermit, that's how you pull the superstitions out. We found this thing, we traveled to here. Oh, really? This. Oh, I've heard this. And this is kind of how you blend it in. It's not like, here's a rumor for you. It's in the conversation. Player characters are sharing their stories. The farmer or hermit is sharing their stories. This type of thing is also true for other travelers on the road. Imagine you're traveling, especially if you're doing a hex crawl through an unknown wilderness, maybe you'll encounter fewer people, although you could still encounter things like rangers and stuff like that. But you might encounter a merchant caravan. Again, they've been around, and there is security in numbers, right? So if a party is traveling and they encounter a group of merchants traveling, likely they're going to travel together if they can, because more numbers equals more security. So at night or while they're hiking or whatever, they're going to be talking. And again, this is where we can get more information. This will be less superstition because these people are more sophisticated, if you will, but possibly legend, especially if it's somebody who deals with artifacts and stuff. But most likely it will be the tavern talk gossip, right? They're going to know what goes on in this town over there, in this town over there, where these resources are, who's coming and going, how dangerous the roads are. That's what the merchant caravans are going to know. So when you come across people camping or you camp together, again, you share stories. Supernatural guides. Another source that I love to use in my games are magical things, especially in the forest or in the middle of nowhere. A pool in the middle of the desert that, of course, can quench the thirst of the player characters, but also possibly there's a nymph in it that could tell stories, or some kind of spirit, right? It could be like a looking glass where they see things, trees and birds that talk, kind of fairy things, because when you're outside the norm, right, you're in a different place, different rules apply. So talking to forest creatures can be really interesting ways to get, again, less superstition, I think, because they're really out there, right? Although their superstitions might be about townspeople, here we're probably going to know more about legends. Here we're going to get some of the truth, if you will, of the legends. Oh yes, armies did march through here. It's tell you the trees that have survived for hundreds of years. They're going to be able to talk about this ancient glory and how nobody's been here in a long time and where they might have gone and the destruction they left in their path. So they're definitely going to remember that. Starting rumors. All right, a couple more things I want to talk about. And the first one is, I'm just going to go real simple here. If you are starting a brand new campaign, I suggest that you create some superstitions and legends that some of the player characters know about. And I like to actually give them to them separately. That is to say, you can just give them to the player and allow them to share it in character or not share it if they want to go that way with the rest of the group, as opposed to just saying, here are the rumors everybody knows. Let different people know different things. That gives you some ability as a player, that is, not as a referee, to help shape the party, right? You know something, so you can say, hey, I know this legend. Or something might just, maybe you get a legend as a player and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then something comes up in game and you're like, guys, this is something I know about, right? And this is the kind of thing that can be really fun as a player. So give the players each one or two superstitions or legends secretly, and then maybe give the entire group some gossip talk if you just want to start. I think just giving some information at the beginning is a good way to kind of just get things rolling. And also it helps if you narrate it a little bit, so you can start with, brand new campaign. You've come to town, you spend a few days here, and in the tavern you talked to blah, 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 and they told you this. A merchant passed through and told you this. And that's how you can share these initial rumors. And because you're framing them not just as the rumor, but how they were gotten, that will help the players understand more rumors can be had like that. And they might even say, oh, is that merchant still in town? Can I go back and talk more to the barkeep? And that's how you get things rolling. 3 sides to every rumor. So the last thing that I like to do that I think is really key to making the rumors not feel like you're trying to push the player characters in a certain direction is I like to have rumors come from different sources with variations. That is to say that a farmer might tell a similar story to a villager, but with some twists. The key is that they both say to stay out of this forest or these foothills, but for completely different reasons. Oh, that's an ancient burial ground. Oh, that's where a werewolf lives, right? And neither one of those things might be true. Maybe there's something else going on there, or maybe it's both things. Either way, you're kind of redirecting, right? There's multiple rumors pointing to the same thing, but they're not the same rumor. You don't go into one tavern and they go, don't go in the hills because there's a werewolf with lots of treasure. And then you go into the next tavern, don't go in the hills, because that becomes like you're trying to push them in that direction. But if you just kind of have the hills keep coming up in conversations in various ways, the merchant says, oh yeah, well, it takes 6 days to get here because we take the roads because we never pass through those hills. They're too dangerous, right? Somebody else, the farmer, is like, well, we used to actually grow crops in that direction, but we don't anymore because the land went barren because of a curse, right? And again, so you've got all these different ideas, but they're all pushing, there's something happening over here. And that's one good way to approach this so that it keeps coming up. And of course, don't do one right after the other, spread them out so that players that are paying attention will start to see the connection. So that's basically how I use rumors and legends and superstitions in my game. I would love to know how you use them. Let me know in the comments below. Check the description as well. You're going to find a link to my Discord server where lots of people talking about lots of things. And if you have a suggestion for a video, go ahead and jump over there and let's talk. Also, there's a link to my Patreon if you want to support the channel. I'll talk to you soon.